Marge Ptaszek was searching for the purpose of her life and the truth that would tie everything together to make sense of what was taught and what was happening on our planet, the fire that was creating all the smoke. Through many experiences, she was finally led to the knowledge book that provided all the answers. She is now talking about this gift to humanity on Knowledge Book Radio, so all can be united in peace, love, and harmony. Please call 1-973-787-7035 or email mmjp99@gmail.com with questions. If you send your postal address to mmjp99@gmail.com, you will receive 3 chapters of the Knowledge Book as a gift. Now, here is your host, Marge Ptaszek.
Hello, everyone. I'm Marge Ptaszek, and you're listening to Knowledge Book Radio with Marge Ptaszek on Transformation Talk Radio. Today, as we've been doing for a while now, we will be talking about another topic, and that topic then will be connected to the Omega Dimension. The Omega Dimension is a dimension that has not been open to humanity until now, and now it is being opened through the Knowledge Book, and therefore we are able to receive the energies from there and the knowledge from there. So what we're doing is basically talking about a topic, some world topic, whether it's the sky is blue or time processes or whatever we're talking about. That knowledge, while the talk is being given, is being correlated and integrated with the Omega Dimension, which means at this point, and the union of Central Sun, which means all the knowledge eventually will be unified with the advanced knowledge, and we will be able to progress towards that dimension. Now, the Omega Dimension is the second part of a program that was devised by the powers that be of the Alpha Entrance Omega Exit program. Now, the Alpha Entrance is the religious training and education. And this was done up until the year 2000. After the year 2000, we have now entered a new kind of world, and we have entered into the Omega Exit program. Now, those of us who have finished their religious training, who have finished their Alpha Entrance, are now going on to the Omega Exit, which means we are getting ready to go to advanced dimensions, and the Knowledge Book is here to allow us to do that. So each of the previous sacred texts, whether it was the Old Testament, the New Testament, the Psalms of David, or the Quran, or the philosophies of the Far East, they each have their own energies and frequencies and knowledge, and each one of them has their own specific methodology through which we go and absorb the energies and the knowledge of that particular book or that particular dimension. And step by step, we arrive at this current time, which is the time of the fourth order of Allah. And this is the time of being progressed to the Omega Dimension. And before, we were dependent on an external source, an external guide. And currently, it is the Knowledge Book that becomes our guide, and it is our conscience that becomes our Lord, becomes our leader, that allows us to become what we need to become, which is very superior and very energetic and ultra-human human beings. So today, we will be talking about aura photography, and this is the knowledge we'll be connecting to the union of central suns, or the 19th dimension, or what is known as the Omega Dimension. Before I go on, I would like to remind you that the main website for the Knowledge Book is www.dkb, David Kite Boy, Mevlana.org.tr. The Call to Friendship Association is www.calltoFriendship.org. calltofriendship.org. The Knowledge Book Studies for the United States is www.usa.thenowledgebook, all one word, .net. I, of course, can be reached through email, mmjp, Mary John Peter 99@gmail.com, or you can call or text me at 973-787-7035. So again, today's topic is aura photography. And I know many people are interested in what their auras look like. And today we're going to talk about how that gets accomplished, to be able to see what the invisible is. Each one of us has an aura, but I certainly can't see them. Some people can. So let's go. So we are literally swimming in a vast electromagnetic field where each being, each object has its own energy frequency and magnetic field. Today, we will talk about how this invisible field can be detected and depicted in photographs. Now, everything is energy. So this is a scientific fact that everything on this planet and beyond is made up of energy particles that vibrate. The law of vibration states that anything that exists in our universe, whether seen or unseen, consists of pure energy or light. Everything that exists is a vibrational frequency or pattern. I remember I worked at a hospital at one point, and part of my job was to meet out certain liquids that were needed by the hospital in different departments. And what I noticed was that when a stream of that liquid, the stream of water or whatever it was flowing smoothly, it looked like it was solid. However, if you put your finger in the stream, of course, it was liquid, it was moving, and it was fluid. So you can imagine everything being basically a vibration, and that vibration stays at a certain frequency, and therefore it looks like a solid to us. So even if something appears solid, it is made up of vibrating particles. Particles undergo a specific number of cycles or vibrations in one unit of time, and this is what is known as frequency. So you could think of a wave going up and down and up and down, and each time the wave goes up and comes back up to the same place at the top is one cycle. And as many as, depending on what you're going through, so if you have, let's say, like a goalpost, if you have these waves passing through the goalpost, then the number of waves that pass through the goalpost at a particular time, meaning 1 minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes, and you count all those crests, then that becomes your frequency, and that frequency has a very specific energy and can hold specific knowledge. So each living and non-living object has its own specific frequency. And that, of course, includes humans, as we are part of and are governed by the laws of nature. So we're not separate from nature. We are governed by nature, and all our chemical processes that are going on in our body, basically following the physical laws of nature. So we are vibrating at a changing rate depending on our emotional, mental, and physical states. Now we can alter our own vibration by changing the way we think, the way we feel, or the way we act. So if you want to know what your life will be, think of the thoughts that you're producing right now. If you're thinking that everything will be good and everything is good as it is, if you accept humans as they are, then you're creating a world for yourself where you are happy. However, if you are on the other end of the scale, where you are evaluating and judging everyone around you and producing thoughts that are criticizing what's going on around you, then you are building a world for yourself that is unhappy. Now, each frequency has a specific power, a specific energy that can carry data or knowledge. Now, if you think about, let's say, the red light or infrared, that infrared has a power to maybe warm you up in the case that we are cold, or it can melt snow. However, it cannot cut through metal or any solid object. But if you take a very high frequency, such as a laser, it has tremendous power. It is able to cut through metal. It definitely is used in the medical field to perform operations and to do very delicate surgery. So depending on the frequency, that will determine power that it holds, the energy that it holds, and the data that it can convey. Now, each frequency has a specific and corresponding magnetic field, and each living and non-living object has their own particular magnetic field. So here we're seeing the electromagnetic field of the heart, centered on the heart. And as you can see, it is huge. It extends beyond our bodies. And our mind also is a field of energy. And the millions of thoughts we have every day are creating emotions that are creating our reality while simultaneously sending out vibrational waves. So if you have a positive outlook, if you see everything as it is as perfect, then we are transmitting those feelings to others around us, and we are helping people around us and creating a different kind of reality. But we know that everything has a vibration, everything has a magnetic field, everything has an energy, depending on the frequencies. But can we actually see what that looks like? Can we actually show and somehow depict the invisible as visible? And is there a mechanism that can represent the invisible in a visual format? Now, the Knowledge Book gives a definition for the word aura, and this is aura, the energy reflection that each crude matter emanates according to itself, otherwise known as a magnetic energy field. So everything has an aura, and that aura is particular to itself, depending on what it's made of and what dimension it is in. The concept of the aura, or an energy field surrounding living beings, has been prevalent throughout history. Ancient civilizations, as the Egyptians and Greeks, believed in the existence of a vibrant aura, representing vital life force or divine connection. However, it wasn't until the late 19th century that efforts to capture the aura in visual form emerged. So the belief in auras goes back a long, long time. However, a way to be able to see the invisible didn't start until recently. So again, the aura is a magnetic energy field that extends beyond the physical body. It is believed to consist of various layers, and each layer represents a different aspect of our being, including the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual dimensions. So each one of these would have their own particular aura and energy, and the aura is composed of all these sublayers. In Fascicle 52, this is what it says about the aura and about the human. Quote, each human has special magnetic fields peculiar to himself, herself. The entire physical body is constituted of triangles of a unified field. Your very prismatic aura is like this. Every human is a flower. That is, he is composed of a center point and 6 petals. These petals are connected to your brain coat. For your most powerful first focal point is your nucleic acids. The energy signals of your physical body come from there, and they converge in the brain and reflect. In the religious mediums, the nucleic acids is called the heart and the essence heart. The 7 prismatic triangles of a healthy human should give out equal energy vibrations. A human is healthy in proportion with his/her goodwill. But goodwill should be in your nucleic essence, not in appearance. So it's not enough to talk the talk. You have to be doing, you have to be walking the walk. And that was the end of the quote from the 52nd fascicule of the Knowledge Book. So now we're going to go into an explanation of how aura photography works. Although some people can see auras, most of us can't and need to rely on mechanical devices like the Kirlian photography technique. And this technique is one of the most popular methods used in aura photography. So many people, I think more and more people at this point are beginning to see auras. They could explain the colors that they are seeing around the person, and whether there's any voids in the aura or some areas of discrepancy or something that needs to be fixed. But a lot of people can't, and I'm one of them. So if anything, I would need to depend on someone else's vision and their description of it, or the physical capability of the Kirlian technique of producing aura images. So the Kirlian photography is a collection of photographic techniques used to capture the phenomenon of electrical coronal discharges. It is named after Semyon Kirlian, who in 1939, which is pretty late as far as development in the modern world, accidentally discovered that if an object on a photographic plate is connected to a high voltage source, an image is produced on the photographic plate. So the essence of this is you need to have an electrical source, you need to have a photographic plate, you need to have an object through which that electrical current goes through. Now, here comes a set of tongue twisters. Let's see if I could get through this. So the aura photography history. The technique has been variously known as electrography, electrophotography, electrophotography, coronal discharge photography, or CDP, bioelectrography, gas discharge visualization, GDV, electrophotonic imaging, EPI, and in Russian literature, and the most simple to pronounce is Kirlianography. And I'm sure I pronounced some of them incorrectly. So bioelectrography, another method utilized in aura photography is bioelectrography, commonly you've referred to as GDV, or gas discharge visualization. Now, this method involves using a specialized camera to measure and analyze the varying intensities of light emitted by the individual being photographed. The camera captures the subtle energy field around the subject, converting it to visual representations such as colors and shapes. So this is not an invasive method. You don't need a current going through you, but you need that special camera to be able to see the energies and magnetic field around you. In 1889, we're going back a little bit, the Czech Bartolomej Navratil coined the word electrography, and 7 years later, in 1896, a French experimenter, Hippolyte Baraduc, created electrographs of hands and leaves. In 1898, Polish-Belarusian engineer Jakub Jotko Narkiewicz demonstrated electrography at the 5th exhibition of the Russian Technical Society. So at the turn of the century, from the 19th to the 20th century, this is when this field was beginning to be developed, and it became more and more in use. So at this point, so it's the late 19th century going into the 20th century. Then in 1939, there are two Czech gentlemen, S. Pratt and J. Schlemmer, who published photographs showing a glow around leaves. So this is actually quite beautiful picture of those leaves and the auras of the leaves. And in the same year, or 1939, Russian electrical engineer Semyon Kirlian and his wife Valentina developed Kirlian photography after observing a patient in Krasnodar Hospital who was receiving medical treatment from a high-frequency electrical generator. So what they noticed was that when the electrodes were brought near the patient's skin, there was a glow similar to that of a neon discharge tube. So that particular instrument that was using electrodes was producing the same kind of effect as we see in neon lights, meaning those gases around the body started to vibrate at higher frequency and therefore was discharging light beams, and the aura became visible. So this is the husband and wife team of Kirlian who were working, putting the instrument to take a picture of the aura of objects. So the appearance of an apparent aura fascinated Semyon Kirlian so much that he decided to conduct his own experiments and capture photographs of its effects. He was intent on photographing what he believed to be visible auras forming around the object. So you have an aura around a human, an aura around a leaf, and what you're seeing in the background here is the tips of fingers again, with the aura being taken of that. So he was an electrician. Kirlian was an electrician, and because he was an electrician, he was able to duplicate the process at home and successfully captured images of his hand with an aura discharge around it. And what you're seeing here is the aura of a leaf. It was this experiment and outcome that associated Kirlian photography with the practice of photographing auras. So it's quite beautiful, the picture, and it shows that each one of us, and proves actually that anything living or non-living produces an aura. So the Kirlians conducted many experiments where photographic film was placed on top of a conducting plate, and another conductor was attached to a hand, a leaf, or other plant material. The conductors were energized by a high-frequency, high-voltage power source, producing photographic images, typically showing a silhouette of the object surrounded by the aura of light. Now, the picture of the aura of a hand here is very interesting, as to, because they've got 1, 2, 3, you've got 5 points on the top parts of the fingers, looks like are very high energy. Then you also have a point in the middle of the palm. So I think this should be very interesting to martial arts practitioners, to people who are of the Buddhist persuasion, because these points actually, especially the point in the palm, has significance in those dimensions. In 1958, the Kirlians reported the results of their experiments for the first time. So they were working quietly in their own laboratories from 1939 to 1958, and that's when they came out and started to explain their work. However, despite the fact that it became more public in 1958, it wasn't until 1970 when 2 Americans, Lynn Schroeder and Sheila Ostrander, published a book, Psychic Discoveries Behind the Iron Curtain. And high-voltage electrophotography soon became known to the general public as Kirlian photography. Although little interest was generated among Western scientists, Russians held a conference on the subject in 1972 at Kazakh State University. And this is only, about 50 years ago that this was done. And now when you go to expos, when you go to meetings, go to trade shows, as far as the alternate expos are concerned, you have aura photography being offered by many vendors. So it has become almost mainstream in terms of a certain subsection of society. That people take their auras, and depending on what those auras show up and a photograph, they then can make decisions as to whether go in one direction or another direction, depending on what the analysis of that aura is. So the auras, in some cases, found areas of disease. In some cases, people were able to change things around and fix their auras, therefore fixing their bodily energies. But it's actually the other way around. You're not fixing the aura, you're actually fixing or addressing the issues in your body, and that body then produces a different aura depending on the energy your body has. So this is the book of psychic discoveries behind the iron curtain that was published by Lynn Schroeder and I can't read it. Sanders. This looks Sheila Ostrander. That's what that is. Now, Kirlian photography was used in the former Eastern Bloc in the 1970s. The corona discharge glow at the surface of an object subjected to a high voltage electrical field was referred to as a Kirlian aura in Russia and in Eastern Europe. In 1975, Soviet scientist Viktor Adamenko wrote a dissertation titled Research of the Structure of High-Frequency Electric Discharge, Kirlian Effect Images. Scientific study of what the researchers call the Kirlian effect was conducted by Viktor Inyushin at Kazakh State University. So in Russia, in the Eastern Bloc, people were much more open to auras and aura studies and depicting of auras in a visual form that can be seen by the naked eye, by usually in the electromagnetic visual field of humans. Then early in 1970s, Thelma Moss and Kendall Johnson at the Center for Health Sciences at UCLA conducted extensive research into Kirlian photography. So now in 1970s, the idea of auras and depiction of auras began to take root and began to be researched in the West, no longer being completely, exclusively researched in the Eastern Bloc. Now, we were talking about Kirlian photography. However, there is another technique called the polycontrast interference photography. And you have the Kirlian photography pictures on the left here, which is the pictures of the auras of the hands, and you have the polycontrast interference photography, which is this picture that is produced by that particular form of aura capture or depiction, aura depiction. So after many years of researching Kirlian photography, Harry Oldfield, a British or United Kingdom biologist who turned into an energy field researcher, developed an energy field imaging system, otherwise known as polycontrast interference photography, or PIP, or PIP, in the 1980s. So the 1980s, we're talking about this technology is only 40 years old. And again, in the picture here, you see different fields being depicted by different colors, and each one of those colors corresponds to a specific frequency, a specific energy level. Now, polycontrast interference photography, or PIP, or PIP, is an energy field video imaging process. This technology reveals patterns of light that are not visible to the naked eye. Oldfield thought that the human energy field might possibly interfere with photons which are energy packets of light. He reasoned that ambient surrounding light would be interfered with by the energy field both when the incident ray traveled towards the object and when the reflected ray bounced off the object. So basically what he's measuring is light beams or light particles hitting the person's aura, interfering with that aura, whether that light goes towards the body and then is reflected from the body. And each one of those is basically interfering with the waves that are produced by the body, and therefore an image could be formed. Now, I don't know if anybody remembers their wave experiments in high school, where we had a tub of water, and then we had a little machine that basically created waves in the water. So where the waves were congruent, meaning they had the same shape and they were at the same frequency, meaning the crest matched the crest and the bottom matched the bottom, then that would be exaggerated, meaning one wave was added to the other, which means the wave increased in height. So this is part of the interference. However, if one wave had a high crest and the next wave met that high crest with the lower part of the wave, then that wave would be canceled and there will be no wave produced at all. So this is what he's talking about. He's talking about that interference factor. So depending on how in sync or out of sync those waves are, then different waves form and you can carry information in that way. And he is actually measuring that interference pattern. And based on an interference pattern, he knows what energy and frequency that's going on around the body. And that is transferred and correlated to a different color. And that's how the color image is produced. Now, colors are just colors that we can see, but we don't necessarily can associate each color with specific traits. However, over time during research, they have come to the conclusion or come to the theory that very possibly certain colors can be associated with health and well-being, and certain colors can be associated with disease. So Oldfield devised a computer program that would analyze the different light intensities being reflected from the person or object being scanned. The PIP software can distinguish between many different grades of qualities of light. So again, this has to be a computer program because we cannot see this with our naked eyes. So PIP is strictly a non-invasive analysis tool. So you don't have to put your hand on on a plate through which a current is fed. You don't have to be hooked up to any kind of an electrode. You can be just sitting there and the camera is able to, or the video is taking the picture of the aura, the invisible aura, and the program, the algorithm, then processes the energy particles, interference patterns, and therefore they are able to reveal patterns of non-visible light that are not visible to the naked eye, but then become visible through the technology. Harry Oldfield believed that the future of diagnosis of medical ailments lay in finding an effective scanner that can see imbalances in the energy field rather than disease in the physical body. He used various colors calibrated into the machine. Each of these colors were given a particular meaning and are used to display positive vibrations in areas of disturbances in the biofield. So in some cases, depending on the pictures and the auras, pictures of the auras that are created through this PIP technology, it could be deduced that a person could be sick or is developing an illness, or that everything is okay as long as they continue, taking care of themselves. So it's a good tool in some fields to actually see what's going on. And if you look at the picture, you have A, then you have an aura picture of that A. Now, the information or the PIP photograph can then be used in various ways depending on the training and experience of the investigator or practitioner. So this instrument, or the PIP instrument, has gained a lot of popularity with researchers trying to understand how a person's biofield is a telltale sign of their current or future health. So again, it's a good tool, or is being developed as a tool for health analysis and prediction of future health of an individual. So depending on the colors that are assigned to each frequency, and depending on the frequency that then correlates with a certain disease or a certain state of the human body, then those could be used as analysis and projecting tool for the health and well-being of that individual. So this reminds me of Star Trek, where you have a scanning device that basically goes through and around your body and is able to isolate and ascertain where the disease is, what the disease is, and eventually maybe will be used to heal whatever that disease is. So since 2007, so this is what, 20 years ago, not even, taking advantage of the advancements in biofeedback instruments, the Maharishi University of Spirituality, or MAV, and the Spiritual Science Research Foundation, or SSRF, have been using such instruments to study the effects of various stimuli on living and non-living objects, aura, and energy field. So now this has moved into the spiritual side, not only the physical diagnostic side, but also the spiritual side, where they can go into the aura and have a spiritual outcome in terms of analyzing the spiritual state of a human. Now, today, most aura cameras work by using a camera which is connected to a biofeedback device for producing real-time data. The biofeedback device measures changes in skin temperature, electrical conductivity, and other physiological parameters. So the tools are being developed and tools are being formed to produce clearer and more accurate results based on the photography of the aura. So first of all, a person is photographed with an aura camera that captures the electromagnetic radiation emitted by their body. So we're swimming in an electromagnetic field, and we are also producing our own electromagnetic field within that field. The captured data is then converted into digital signals through advanced optical technologies using specialized sensors in the camera. So the technology is getting further and further developed and becoming more and more precise, and therefore the analysis based on that outcome of that precise instrumentation can be more and more reliable. So digital signals are then analyzed using specially designed proprietary software, special algorithms and programs that apply complex algorithms to decipher the energy patterns and identify various frequencies within the signal. This interpretation helps with creating an image reflecting different colors. So again, they're measuring auras and translating the different energy fields around the body into a color, and therefore those colors and shapes can be used in analyzing a person's aura, and therefore analyzing what the body energy is and whether that person is sick or not sick, and what can be done to help them. So the interpretation of the aura image captured by the camera is a complex process. It involves analyzing various aspects such as the colors, the shapes, the patterns present in the image. The colors in the aura are believed to represent different vibrations and emotions in a person's physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual state. So again, correlation is being made between that aura and that person's body to be able to both analyze and perceive and what can be changed to help that person. In fascicle 39, it states, quote, "The humanly energy is evolutionary energy. This evolution is a necessary phenomenon for you to integrate with advanced dimensions," end quote. So we are an evolutionary form, an evolutionary energy, and we undergo evolution because we need to be able to exist at higher and higher energy dimensions. So if you think about an egg, a raw egg placed in a microwave, if you put a low intensity microwave on with the egg inside, the egg could be cooked. However, if you put a high frequency, meaning high energy microwave on, a powerful microwave on for a longer period of time, that egg then explodes because that energy was too much for that egg to bear. It could not exist at that higher frequency, that higher energy. The same thing goes for us. We can only exist in a dimension where our energy integrates well with the dimension that we are in. So if we go into an area and let's say we have an experiment where there is one field that's created that we have very high cosmic energies, such as X-rays and gamma rays, those rays can actually hurt our bodies. Our bodies are not vibrating at the frequency where those rays are not harmful to us. However, once we get to the point where we're higher and higher energies and frequencies, then we can then absorb and be integrated with the higher energies and nothing will happen to us. So the aura photography that is being developed is one of the paths on our evolutionary journey that eventually will lead us to the knowledge book. However, in capturing and analyzing our auras, as well as other religious programs, we are still dependent on others for analysis and guidance. So again, in the religious dimension, where the aura photography exists, we are always dependent on someone else. It is someone else taking the picture. It is someone else analyzing because they have greater knowledge. Unless we ourselves become experts in that field, then we can analyze our own. However, most of the time we're dependent on someone else's camera, someone else's interpretation of our auras to be able to help us. We are not the person who actually can do this for us. And the same thing goes with the religions per se. So in each case, there's either a rabbi, an imam, a guru, a priest, someone outside that basically outside of yourself that is able to tell you what the next step in your spiritual development is, can prescribe or direct you to the programs or the practices that you need to perform to be able to get the energies from the dimensions that you are trying to access. And eventually, through all those programs, we get to the state where we are actually guided, and all of them are step paths to lead to the knowledge book. And once we get to the knowledge book then conveys us to advanced dimensions. So up until the 20th century, we depended on external guides to help us in our development. And we could do this individually. We could do this on our own. In other words, it is us who are practicing the types of processes that are prescribed by each religion. And in this way, we then help ourselves in going through the energies that we need to be in and the dimensions we need to integrate with. However, once we know about the knowledge book, once we go into the programs of the knowledge book, then the knowledge book conveys us to advanced dimensions, meaning what's a conveyance? Basically, if you could think of a conveyor belt. So each one of us is on a conveyor belt once we get into the knowledge book, and the knowledge book then conveys us from our starting point, which is the 72nd energy dimension or the love frequency, and it conveys us to the 76th energy dimension, which is the omega dimension, and which is then our exit point from the time-space dimensions. You could also think of the knowledge book as an escalator, where you start at the bottom, or the entrance point of 72nd energy, which is alpha, and the knowledge book conveys you slowly, step by step, conveys you up to the omega dimension, and then you have successfully finished your programs in this world and can go into the next and advanced dimensions. And since our inception to the present day, we have been on a quest searching for ourselves and for the truth. So in this quest, we have been evolving under the guidance of the religious texts. The Old Testament, the New Testament, the Quran, the philosophies of the Far East, each have specific frequencies and energies that gradually prepare us for even higher magnetic fields and energy dimensions. And if you could think of these books also as an escalator, or each one of them had their own particular practices. So there was a prescription that is given by the Old Testament where you do certain practices, you say certain prayers, and you do certain religious practices, and that imbues you with the energies and frequencies of the Old Testament. The same thing goes for the New Testament. You had different rules, different prescriptions, different processes that we need to go through, different formal practice that allowed us to integrate with that frequency. The Quran also has its own particular programs, its own particular practices that need to be followed and practiced in order to absorb the energy and frequencies of the Quran and to be able to then go on to the next layer. And the philosophies of the Far East, of course, have their own special energies and frequencies, special practices. And again, the teacher is on the outside telling us, okay, now you can go do this practice. Now you can do this prayer. Now you can recite this mantra, and you're able to gradually integrate with the energies of those teachings, with that dogma. And we are then finally able to meet with the knowledge book. Now, the knowledge book has a special technique called the light photon cyclone technique, which our planet does not yet know of. According to this technique, time energy is loaded onto the letter frequencies. For this reason, whichever language the book may be translated into, its frequency never changes, but stays the same as the original. So in this technique, photon fixes the dimension energies onto the letters. Light loads the time energy onto the letters, and cyclone provides attainment of the frequencies of dimensions that could not be attained until today. So let's review this. The photon part of the photon light cyclone technique, or light photon cyclone technique, this is the one that fixes the dimension and to the letters, meaning yesterday, whatever dimension was available to us is absorbed into the letters of the book. The light part of this technique loads the time energy onto the letters, meaning yesterday was a different energy available, different time, and today there is different dimensions that may be open to us, and we're in a different time dimension, therefore different time energy, because everything opens up higher to higher dimensions over time. And then cyclone, this part allows you to attain frequencies of dimensions that could not be attained until today. meaning as you're reading the knowledge book is reading you and is able to give you those specific energies and frequencies and knowledge that are safe for you to absorb. And then slowly over time, you gradually move on up the scale and move up from the 72nd to the 76th energy dimension, or from alpha to omega. But if you didn't finish or didn't take part in the religious practices, it doesn't matter, because the knowledge book contains all the essence, frequencies, and knowledge of all the previous religious texts, plus it attracts the energies and knowledge that is available at the time it is being read. It is connected to infinite dimensions. So depending on where you are, depending on your evolution and consciousness level, you can derive, you can get from the knowledge book that which you need at that time. But so the book dispenses energies and knowledge at our current level, or at the level of the person who is reading or working with the programs of the knowledge book. The person then slowly, safely, and easily evolves to higher and higher dimensions. Now, I know it is said, and warnings are given, as far as Buddhist practices are concerned, you have to be very careful as to who your teacher is and where the knowledge that he is promulgating is coming from. Because if you do a practice incorrectly, then you can do tremendous harm to yourself. However, if you're in the knowledge book protects you, and the knowledge book sees what it is and where it is that you are, and is able then to dispense at your particular current level, and then is able to give you what you need when you need it. So as mentioned in the knowledge book, humanity will eventually develop more and more sensitive technology to measure the most subtle energy changes. And basically, maybe PIP is a technology that may be a start and will be developed into much more sensitive and much more accurate results. So, okay. So as we have established and pictures have shown, everything has an aura. And I know we haven't shown pictures of inanimate objects, but they have an aura as well. But we haven't shown the pictures of it because people have been emphasizing taking auras of living objects. So everything has an aura. The knowledge book is no exception. However, unlike the static and limited auras of most crude matter forms, the knowledge book aura is both extensive and dynamic. So it changes over time because the dimensions change over time and the time changes as we're progressing. And therefore, the book itself is showing these changes in the energies it contains, in the magnetic field it contains. And as you've been seeing in the pictures of the knowledge book here in the slides, different colors are emerging from the same book. It is still the knowledge book, however, it has different colors. It produces different results in the photography because different energies are present at that time. So the pictures that we've been seeing in the previous slides show the aura of the knowledge book made at different times. So we can easily see the changes in the energies in the magnetic field of the knowledge book because the colors representing the energies change in both shape and in color. So let's go back to, so this is mostly greens, some pinks and blues. We've got greens and pinks and orange showing up here. Here we've got pinks and reds and blues and oranges. Again, the shape is different, the colors are different, the energies are different. This is with the book open. This is with the book open. And if there had been a picture, this is mostly oranges. So if someone was sitting next to the book then their auras would also change depending on what's going on, and the book's aura would also change. So as we evolve and move into higher dimensions, our magnetic fields also change as a reflection of the progress we are making on our evolutionary path. As we evolve, the colors in our aura also change to represent our dimensional frequency and unified field. Eventually, through evolving on the path designed in the knowledge book, we will become a book ourselves and be able to attract the cosmic energies and radiate our love to our surroundings, and thereby to provide both material and moral aid to those around us. So our very presence can be able to heal those around us. The knowledge book, as a gift to humanity at its transition to the golden age, is a guidebook that presents a path that will safely, easily, and gradually convey us to the advanced dimensions. The reading program, the writing program, the focal point studies of the knowledge book are perfectly designed to provide the frequency key that opens the doors to the advanced dimensions. And that's all she wrote for today. You can always contact me at mmjp99@gmail.com or 973-787-7035. Be happy to talk or communicate with you. Please do send questions or any kind of comments you have about the talk, and we'll see you next time.
You've been listening to Knowledge Book Radio with Marge Ptaszek. Marge was led to the Knowledge Book, a gift to humanity at its time of transition to the Golden Age that provides the truth, energies, and knowledge. Now she shares information from and answers questions about the Knowledge Book with you the fourth Tuesday each month at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com. For more information, visit usa.theknowledgebook.net and tune in next time for another amazing show on Knowledge Book Radio.